Dear fellow Americans, community members, our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are with all the refugees in America and around the world today on the occasion of World Refugee Day. And as all Americans, our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are with the victims and the families of the victims of the horrific attack in Orlando. I remind us all that American Muslims are a diverse community made up of descendants of enslaved Africans that were Muslim, children of immigrants, and refugees. And we all stand together in loving our country, America. And we are partners in protecting our country for national security. We will now have a moment of silence for all the victims of the horrific attack in Orlando. May all people live in peace, harmony, and respect. Amen. We are honored to have the Honorable Secretary of State John F. Kerry, Assistant Secretary Ann Richard, Special Representative to Muslim Communities Shariq Zafar, and United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Special Envoy Angelina Jolie Pitt. We are also honored to have an esteemed panel of interfaith leaders joining us up here today. We have Mr. Syed Muqtadir, the President of ADAMS and Vice Chair of the U.S. Muslim and Christian Coalition for the Protection of Christian and Religious Minorities in the Arab World. We have Imam Muhammad Majid, the Executive Religious Director of the ADAMS Center. We have Dr. Tanveer Mirza, Faith Social Services President. Pastor Dr. Bob Roberts, the Senior Pastor of Northwood Church, an evangelical Christian community of 173 churches. We have Rabbi Bruce Lustig, the Senior Rabbi of Washington Hebrew Congregation. We have His Eminence, Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, the Archbishop Emeritus of Washington. We have Pastor Joanne Bell Hayes, pastor of the United Christian Parish, affiliated with the Disciples of Christ, the Presbyterian Church, the United Church of Christ, and the United Methodist Church. We have Dr. Rajwant Singh, the Sikh Council on Religion and Education, and we have Ms. Mithili Lee Bachu, the Chair of the Council of Hindu Temples of North America. We also would like to give special thanks to our social services agencies here today. Ms. Roseanne Asman and Dr. Sai Mamdou of Lutheran Social Services of the National Capital Area, Mr. Wasim Antabi of the Washington Area Interfaith Refugee and Resettlement Task Force, Ms. Mirna Bark and Mr. Shlomo Boltz of the Syrian American Council, an interfaith organization, and the representatives of ADAMS Social Services and Community Services team. I am now honored to introduce Imam Muhammad Majid, the Executive Religious Director of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society.
Honorable Secretary John Kerry, Assistant Secretary Ann Richard, Mr. Shariq Zafar, Special Representative to the Muslim Community, Ambassador Angelina Jolie Pitt, Special Envoy to United Nations for Refugees, leaders of faith communities, guests, and community. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to the President Obama and Secretary Kerry for their continued effort to reach out to connect with the Muslim community here and abroad. And I would like to thank Secretary Kerry especially for honoring us with his presence today at ADAMS Center to highlight one of the largest refugee crises in recent history. We are here today during the holy month of Ramadan, the month of fasting that allow us to experience a small portion of difficulties people in need go through each day. Today, as we break our fast, thousands of refugees will continue to struggle with hunger long after even this month of Ramadan is over. Today we gather to remind ourselves that there are so many in the world with so little. It is our obligation as Americans to create a nation that welcomes those escaping from suffering, flee their homes, not by choice, but because it is necessary for their survival. A great America is a compassionate America. I repeat again, a great America is a compassionate America. We find strength in our commitment to generosity as people of faith. All of us in this room find that our religions urge us to be compassionate, caring, and to love thy neighbor. That is what continues to make us a great community. We stand in solidarity with refugees around the world. So, as a human family, that we care about one another, and as compassionate community of faith, regardless of identity, ethnicity, race, or religion of those who are suffering. Today, Christian, Jewish, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, and Baha'i are all gathered here to show our commitment to helping refugees from all over the world. Some of the refugees are with us today. I would like to appreciate and honor them. They have made America their home and working hard to pursue American dream, the dream of freedom and pursuit of happiness, on which this great country was founded. They make America more diverse and teach us all about how to be better global citizens. In speaking up for the voiceless, we say with the strong voice that we care about one another and about humanity. We affirm our standing with those in vulnerable states across the globe. No politics or religion should be an obstacle to helping those in need, because this is a humanitarian crisis and required humanitarian compassion response. As Muslims who adhere to the teaching, it says that no one shows gratitude for the bounties of God upon them unless they share that bounties with others. Let us bring the best in ourselves as American and people of faith by sharing those bounties with men and women and children who are suffering with the open hearts and open arms. As all good clergy, I conclude with the verse from the scripture. The Holy Quran says, whoever takes one life as if he have taken the life of all humanity, and whoever saves one life, it is as though he has saved all humanity. Let us be in the business of saving lives. God bless all of you, God bless America, and God bless the world.
Thank you, Imam Majid, for your reflection. Thank you for your leadership. We appreciate it. We stand for protecting all human life. Dear brothers and sisters, we now invite up Pastor Bob Roberts, Senior Pastor of Northwood Church, evangelical Christian community with over 170 churches around the nation. I give you Pastor Dr. Bob Roberts, Jr.
Mr. Secretary, Your Excellencies, it is an honor to be with you tonight. 15 years ago, I discovered the world, and it's changed me ever since. It's changed the message as an evangelical pastor, a Baptist. Don't hold it against me. From Texas in Republican country, really don't hold it against me. But it has changed how I see things. Easter 2014, I have a friend who's a Muslim. He's not just any Muslim, he's an Ayatollah, a significant Ayatollah. He wanted to come to my church for Easter, so he came. During the worship service, he said, Bob, would you pray for me? I said, sure, and I had an idea. Why don't we let our teenagers get around you and pray for you? So they did. They laid hands on the Ayatollah, and they prayed for him. Here's what they prayed: that God would bring peace between America and Iran. A week later, President Obama talked about the negotiations that began with Iran. I just wanted you to understand why you were successful, because those teenagers actually believed that that was a miracle. God answered for them. But I've discovered that the reality is what we really need is not a miracle from God. We need simple obedience to do what we know our faith teaches. We're living in a strange time, very strange time. We're more afraid of our own tribes than we are evil. We're more afraid of our own tribes than we are doing right. Why is that? There's a sense of right and wrong that all of us know in our life, and we cannot watch the news. We cannot see people drown in the sea. As a follower of Jesus, I cannot watch that and be okay with that. If there's anything about Jesus that I know is this, that he loves us. Here's what he said. He said, people that are hungry, feed them. He said, people that are thirsty, give them drink. People that are homeless, give them shelter. People that are naked, clothe them. People that are sick, take care of them. People that are imprisoned, visit them. He didn't say, find out who's right and who's wrong. He just said, do it. He didn't try to find out whose fault it was. They were in the situation they were in. He just said, do it. And it's our fault if we fail to do that. As an evangelical and as a Baptist, we're really good at apologizing. Generally about 100 years after we do something wrong. But instead of doing that, apologizing to the past, I challenge my tribe, as I would challenge you with your tribe, let's live towards the future. Let's don't have our children and our grandchildren have to apologize for us. Let's let them be able to say, my mom, my dad, Christians and Muslims together, we made a difference. I love Imam Majid. He loves me. I'd love for him to be a Christian and baptize him real good. He would love for me to be a Muslim and be an imam. But here's the reality. In the past, here's how we worked in the world. Christians did their things. Muslims did their things. Let's be very clear. We have fundamental differences about who we believe Jesus is. But the Jesus who lives inside of me, of the Scriptures, is also the same one that loves us all, and he wants us to work together. And so that's what Majid and I do around the world, whether it's in Pakistan, as my beard is getting me ready to go to again, or Afghanistan, or the West Bank, or Gaza. It doesn't matter. It's only when the two largest religions of the world start acting like we believe what the Quran and what the Bible says we believe, that's when faith can be a hope for our world. And that's why we have to love refugees, open our homes, open our hearts, even when our tribes are giving us hell, to stand strong and to say, no, we must love. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bob Roberts. Appreciate the love and the beautiful representation of the faith of Christianity, and thank you for your leadership. And Mr. Secretary, I can assure you that in Northern Virginia, in the Washington metropolitan area, in Maryland, D.C., Virginia, the interfaith community, all the faith communities you see represented here in this room are welcoming refugees with open arms, and we appreciate that. We now invite up Assistant Secretary Ann Richard for Population, Refugees, and Migration. We give you Assistant Secretary Ann Richard.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you, Chairman Jaka. Thank you, Imam Majid. Thank you, Pastor Roberts. And what a wonderful atmosphere there is in this room this evening. And thanks especially to the Boys and Girl Scouts. I used to be a Girl Scout. I'm very happy to be here and share this interfaith iftar dinner with you. As already mentioned, today is World Refugee Day, and today we learn the sad news that the number of refugees and displaced around the world has hit a record high. The UN Refugee Agency reports that there are more than 21 million refugees and nearly 41 million internally displaced persons on Earth. Another 3 million are waiting to hear if they will be granted asylum from countries to which they've fled. for a total of 65 million people on the run or living in exile. Many need our help. Now, for some good news. This next speaker is a friend of the Secretary's. She's a wife and a mother with a passel of kids. She's a successful working woman. She does volunteer work in her spare time. Someone who, like many of us, has dealt with family issues and medical concerns. So it sounds like one of us, doesn't it really, ladies? Yes. I suppose some of us here could fit this description, but let me tell you the similarities end there. Because she is also an Oscar-winning actress, she's also earned 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards and 3 Golden Globe Awards. She has directed 3 noteworthy films. I think there's a 4th, maybe, on the works, including 2 that tackled themes of suffering and survival. A member of the Council on Foreign Relations, advisor to world leaders on humanitarian issues, she recently started teaching at the prestigious London School of Economics. And for more than 15 years, she's been calling the world's attention to the plight of refugees. She has traveled to the places where refugees carve out a precarious existence and sat down with men, women, and children to hear their stories. Her mighty heart is full, and yet she remains dedicated. Every June 20th, every World Refugee Day, she spends with refugees. And today, without having to leave her home country, without having to board an airplane for some exotic locale, today she did the same. I'm delighted to introduce her to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Special Envoy of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR Special Envoy, Angelina Jolie Pitt.
Secretary of State, ladies and gentlemen, Scouts, good evening. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you, with people of different backgrounds, faiths, and beliefs, all pulling in the same direction and sharing a common outlook of respect and tolerance. It reminds me how lucky we are to be living in a country that enables civil society to flourish, that provides for a rich tapestry of viewpoints and efforts. Civil society is one of the guardrails of democracy. And so I thank you for all the work that so many of you do on behalf of refugees in this country and around the world. The principles we live by in a democracy are not new. They are not open to being reinterpreted or watered down, or even set aside because of new circumstances. As citizens, we do not only want freedom and human rights for every single person in our society, we want that for every person in the world. Upholding the ideal that all people are born equal and deserve equal rights and dignity. And that is the essence of what it is to be a citizen of a democracy. It is how we treat the weakest or the most vulnerable among us that says the most about our commitment to human rights and equality and justice for all people. And when we are most clearly seen to truly stand for those things in the world, that is when we are safest as a nation. That is when we are most respected and admired. That is when our word counts most internationally, and that is how we inspire others to work with us. We don't redefine ourselves as different people because we face new and daunting problems. We raise a fight within us to face down those challenges, and we remain true to ourselves. Speaking as an American, the fact is, there is not a country in the world that we are not connected to as a result of our unique history. We represent a global world. And when we are at our strongest, it is when we draw on our diversity as a people to find unity based on our common values and our larger identity. We are not strong despite our diversity. We're strong because of it. So it is time to reclaim for ourselves the idea of what strength is in democratic societies. I firmly believe that strength lies in the decency and common sense of regular citizens, such as the people who turned out in the thousands after the tragedy in Orlando, supported by millions of like-minded people around the world from every race and religion. Strength lies in identifying how to address the very particular challenge from a small minority of people who choose the path of violent extremism or who abuse a religion without stigmatizing and isolating millions of people who share in that beautiful religion. There is nothing strong about denigrating anyone on the basis of their religion, nationality, sexual orientation, gender, or on the basis of any characteristic or difference, real or imagined. When we discriminate, when we imply by our actions that some lives are worth more than others, or when we denigrate the faith, traditions, and cultures of any group of people, we weaken our strength as democratic societies. So, what would it say about us as a country and an international community if we reached the point where we decided we were not prepared to stand up for our principles? The answer to addressing the global refugee crisis surely lies in finding common purpose and drawing strength from each other, like we all feel in this room right now. In staying true to who we are, in showing that we have the fight in us to confront our generation's test and emerge stronger for it. That is my hope, and I believe I share it with all of you and millions of people beyond this room. So thank you so much for all that you do, for allowing me to be here with you. Thank you for allowing me to join you this evening.
Thank you so much, Special Envoy Angelina Jolie Pitt. We appreciate your leadership, your dedication, your courage, your family's courage, and continuing to stand up for the voiceless and for all those in need around the world. Thank you again for your courage. We appreciate it. We now invite up Special Representative to Muslim communities around the world, Mr. Shariq Zafar. We appreciate his dedication and his service to our country. I give you Mr. Shariq Zafar.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Kareem. Or as we say in my house, Ramzan Mubarak, for all the Desis in the house. As Rizwan Bhai said, my name is Shariq Zafar. I'm the special representative to Muslim communities. So my job is to drive the secretaries and departments' efforts to engage Muslim communities around the world on issues of mutual interest and support shared goals. And let me tell you, there's lots of shared goals because there's 1.6 billion Muslims, and guess what? We care about the same issues everybody else does. From climate change, to peace in the Middle East, to clean oceans and clean water. We're like everybody else. So there's a lot of shared goals. Now, let me first thank Rizwan Bhai, Imam Majid, the entire Adams community, because less than 2 weeks ago, I called them and I said, how would you like to host an interfaith iftar in honor of World Refugee Day on June 20th? And oh, by the way, we have some high-profile guests. And they go, well, Brother Shariq, we're already doing one on June 19th, so can we just push it back a day? And so look, this is a terrific event. This is an incredibly important event. It is. It goes without saying. But in many respects, for the Adams community, this is very ordinary. This is very ordinary. Interfaith partnerships, social services, support to refugee families, these are built into the DNA of the Adams community. I've seen this. My wife and I have been out here for more than a decade, and we've seen this. You do this every day, not especially during Ramadan, but not just during Ramadan. So this is an ordinary day. Now, many of us recall, about 5 years ago, many of us were in the room when Dennis McDonough, who's now the President's Chief of Staff, came here and he gave a speech. And he called it a typically American place. A typically American place, and we just saw that. You know, and as President Obama, he dubbed another mosque recently. He goes, look, Adams is an all-American success story. And let me just tell you, I was there in that room when I heard my president talk about the history of Islam since this nation's founding. You know, reaching out as a father, reaching out to American Muslim young people, saying, look, if you're worried about where you fit in, let me tell you, you fit in right here. You're not Muslim or American, you're Muslim and American. Now, look, and that's of course of houses of worship across the country, including mosques. American houses of worship, they feed the poor, they support families, they welcome the stranger. So like I said, this is an ordinary day, but of course you don't always have the honor of hosting the Special Envoy for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and the Secretary of State as your guest of honor. And tonight I have the privilege of introducing my boss, Secretary of State John F. Kerry. But before I do, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Special Envoy Julie Pitt's terrific remarks. In my view, she personifies what it means to be a citizen diplomat. And we're so grateful that you're here tonight. Speaking last month, she said, America is built on people from around the world coming together for freedoms, especially freedom of religion. I could not agree more. It's the lack of these freedoms that forces many refugees to flee their homes. And it's on behalf of these freedoms that my boss, Secretary Kerry, has been fighting for since his career began in public service. Since assuming office, he has worked tirelessly to tackle the numerous global challenges we are facing, ranging from conflict in the Middle East to our oceans to global climate change. And that includes the unprecedented refugee and migration challenge that's facing us. Under his leadership, the United States has agreed to nearly double its contributions to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, making the United States, our country, the largest single contributor in the world. For Secretary Kerry, these aren't just professional challenges. These are personal. And he understands better than anyone, that for the international community to succeed, the United States must lead. And at this time of great peril and great challenges, but also of supreme opportunity, I cannot think of a better person suited to lead American diplomacy than our Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Secretary of State John F. Kerry.
Thank you very much. If I can get this out of here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Kareem. I'm very honored to be with you. I'm holding this mic very close because I was in the Arctic the other day. You can hear my voice. I caught a cold. I think I got too close to the icebergs, but it's an honor for me to be here. Sharik, thank you for a very generous introduction. More importantly, thank you for your wonderful service to the United States State Department. I think all of you can feel his energy and his enthusiasm, can't you? And he is doing a terrific job for the State Department. A wonderful good evening to you all. I want to express my appreciation to Imam Pastor Majid and also to Pastor Imam Roberts. I'm very appreciative very grateful for their wonderful words of faith, their words of an expression of our common ground that brings us here, and which more and more people really need to understand. And to all of the distinguished leaders of faith who are here, particularly, if you don't mind if I single out my old friend, His Eminence Cardinal McCarrick, who is such a wonderful leader here. I want to thank you all for hosting us here today. I'm looking out at this audience, and I want to know why there are more cameras focused on Angelina Jolie than me. What's going on here, guys? But I am enormously appreciative of the wonderful work that is done here at the Adams Center. I know that this Interfaith Iftar is an annual event, and it coincides this year with World Refugee Day. And it also coincides with the humanitarian crisis of mammoth proportions. What we are facing today, Angelina and I were talking about it coming over here, just place after place after place is presenting us with challenge. And many of you are all too familiar with the numbers, so I'm not going to recite all the numbers to you. But the bottom line is that today, World Refugee Day, we need to understand that there are 65 million people who are displaced from their homes. If you put them all together in one place, one country, that would make up the 22nd largest country in the world. And this has created an enormous test of our international capacity, of all of our community's capabilities, and of our compassion, which both the pastor and the imam talked about. A requirement of all religions is compassion, the golden rule. And each of us need to listen carefully to what the Special Envoy, Angelina Jolie Pitt, said about our responsibilities, and think deep inside about what all of us can do. In the United States, no one has done more than non-governmental organizations, including religious groups, to raise money, to advocate for and assist in the settlement of refugees. And I know that many of you here tonight have been very active in that effort, and we thank you for that. But as a country, the United States proudly does lead the world in the more than $5 billion of assistance that we have provided to those who have been made homeless just by the fighting in Syria, and in our annual contributions to refugees from other conflicts as well. We have almost 12 million people alone who are displaced in Syria, 4.5 million who are refugees, and the other 8 million are just displaced people. And some of them are living in Lebanon, not even in camps. Some of them in Turkey in camps. Some of them in Jordan in camps. Many of them, as you've seen, struggling to cross from Greece to Europe and find the hope of a future rather than the terrible images of a crisis, of the loss of life on the seas, or that horrible picture, moving, iconic picture of a young child listless in the arms of his father. So we here in the United States, because of this, because of our sense of responsibility, have pledged to increase the number of refugees that we resettle annually from 70,000 last year to 85,000 this year in fiscal 2016, and aiming for 100,000 in a year from now down the road. This is what we are trying to do. Around the world, a huge effort is being made to respond to this crisis. But I have to tell you, my friends, all of our efforts still fall short of the need. Every nation, every sector, every individual has a responsibility to try to do more. As Secretary of State, I am particularly focused on not just writing checks every year, but on dealing with the crisis at its roots. That means ending conflict, ending a war in Libya, ending a war in Yemen, ending a war in Syria. That is what we are trying to do. And as you know, every war and every conflict actually reflects a failure of diplomacy. Every time we prevent a war or bring an end to a conflict, we make it possible for people to live normally, not as a refugee, but in their own communities, to be able to go home and live in the place that they want to go. And that is why the pursuit of peace, the desire for peace, is so strong among people of every single faith. Our leaders have a solemn responsibility to protect the people who live within our borders, and that is precisely why our refugee screening process is so comprehensive and rigorous. It is also effective. And those who apply for refugee status have to demonstrate that they have a well-founded fear of persecution, as you know. And they will be turned down if they have a history of extremist or criminal behavior. And it's important for people to know that, because people shouldn't fear a process which is as thorough and complete and detailed as the process is here in our country. And if people make false claims or they're unwilling to answer hard questions, then, of course, they will not be allowed to come. There is absolutely no evidence, my friends, zero evidence, that refugees who make it through this arduous process pose any greater threat to our society than the members of any other group. And it is important for people to know that. And let me be very clear. Preventing any group from entering the United States solely because of their race or because of their nationality or because of a religious affiliation is directly contrary to the very ideals on which our country is based. We believe in individual rights, not collective guilt. And we believe in judging people based on what they do, not the circumstances of their birth or their choice of sacred texts. Not only that, we need to remember that bigoted and hateful rhetoric towards Muslims plays right into the hands of the terrorist recruiters who propagate the lie. It plays into the hands of people who propagate the lie that America is at war with Islam, when in fact there is no country on earth where Muslims enjoy more freedom than in the United States of America. My friends, as Angelina knows, and as many of you obviously know, and many of you from very personal experience, the refugee story at its heart is not about statistics. It's about people. It's about families like the one from Damascus and now living in Indiana that spent more than 3 years in a refugee camp and sat through 6 5-hour interviews before getting the green light to come to the United States. It's about the young mother in Dearborn in Michigan whose brother was shot down right before her eyes by the Syrian army. His crime? Taking a photograph of a peaceful protest. It's about the young man from Dara who was about to be killed by soldiers only to be saved when an old woman came barreling into the street pleading with the gunman not to kill her son. And the man who had never seen the woman before lives now with his wife and daughter in Texas, works the night shift at Walmart, and is paying back the cost of their plane flights in monthly installments. That's the story of a refugee. The refugee story is about thousands and thousands of families who want their new neighbors to know that they are not the perpetrators of terror or violence, but rather people who yearn just like them only to live in security and peace. Let me be clear. There is nothing ideological about coming to the aid of someone in need. In times of crisis, when the summons goes out, Americans have traditionally responded as one nation. Americans say, here we are, what can we do to help? That's who we are. That is America at its best. And that is the America that we must restore and preserve in the years and months to come. And looking around this room and looking at all of you with the excitement in your eyes about being here and being part of this journey, I am confident that together we are going to succeed. I want to we have about 2 minutes before we break the fast, so I will do what I learned how to do when I was in the United States Senate, which is filibuster. And I just want to tell you quickly for a minute, I want to thank the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. Thank you so much. I've done public speaking a lot, and I learned a long time ago never speak after the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts do anything. They steal the show. And then the second danger tonight is Angelina Jolie Pitt. She is the show. So, you know, but I want to express my gratitude to you. My mother was a Girl Scout leader for many, many, many years. And she was actually born at a time she was raised abroad, and she lived in England, and she actually met the founder of the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, Lord Baden-Powell. So there was a little connection there to all of you for a long time. And I was a Cub Scout. I got a little ways. So before the rabbi breaks the fast, I just want to say to all of you observing, I wish you a very blessed and rewarding month of Ramadan. To all of you, thank you, good night, and God bless you all. Thank you.
I need Ali. Where is Ali?
While these are the children that have joined us here in America, I know, they are called refugees, but we call them new Americans. We welcome them here. We are honored to have them here. May God bless them. May God keep them and help all the refugees around the world, regardless of faith or background. We will now have the call to prayer. I'm going to invite up a community member, longtime community member working in educational programs here at Adams and helping Imam Majid. He is now a specialist in the U.S. Army National Guard, joining several thousand American Muslims, serving the U.S. honorably in the military. We appreciate their defense of freedom. I give you Specialist Ali Khawaja.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salam. Hayya ala salam. حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Thank you, Ali Khawaja, for the recitation of the call to prayer, praising God. God is truly the greatest. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, we would now like to invite up, as we are enjoining in the samosa and the dates for the breaking of the fast, we're going to invite up Mr. Zaki Berzinji. He is from the White House Office of Public Engagement, who will read a statement from President Barack H. Obama. We appreciate Zaki's leadership and his service to our country. We give you Zaki Berzinji.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. My name is Zaki Berzinji, and I have the honor of serving as the White House liaison to Muslim Americans. Thank you. It's a great honor to be here, especially at my hometown mosque with my imam from when I was a child. On behalf of the White House, I'd like to read a brief statement from the President on this very spectacular occasion. June 20th, 2016. I send greetings to all those attending the Interfaith Ramadan Iftar in recognition of World Refugee Day at the Adams Center. Every year, as Muslims across our country join friends and family for Iftar, we are reminded of the ways America's inherent diversity strengthens our national life. Whether through uniting people in prayer or around their favorite dish, Ramadan offers a chance for Muslim Americans to reflect on their spiritual growth, forge bonds of friendship, and give back to their communities. As a country, we must continue to uphold the spirit of compassion, camaraderie, and service that occasions like Ramadan call on people to embrace. In the aftermath of last week's tragedy in Orlando, we see once again how those who try to divide our American family continue to fail. Tonight's gathering, bringing together people of different faiths and backgrounds to safeguard rights and build greater understanding, is a powerful rebuke to those who wish to divide us. And we encourage more people to raise their voices of peace and inclusion. I am grateful to the many Muslim Americans who made their voices known this past week by hosting vigils of solidarity, donating blood, and organizing assistance for affected families. This World Refugee Day, we recognize the millions of people around the world, including many Muslims, who have been displaced from their homes. The resolve they demonstrate in the face of challenges as they wait at border crossings or risk their lives boarding boats to safety sheds a light on the unwavering hope that guides the people of our world. They endure hardships that many of us can barely imagine, and we must not allow ourselves to be ignorant of their plight. Helping those who are marginalized and oppressed is more than an act of charity. It is a matter of collective security and a fundamental principle of human decency. Occasions like Ramadan present opportunities to reaffirm our commitment to providing protection and assistance to refugees and other vulnerable populations. I commend the Adams Center and the rest of the Muslim American community for their efforts to uplift others and build a brighter, safer, and more inclusive world. Ramadan Kareem, President Barack Obama.
Dear brothers and sisters, if everybody can stay seated as Secretary Kerry, Special Envoy Angelina Jolie Pitt, and Assistant Secretary of State Ann Richards will be departing. We need everyone to stay seated, please. Again, a round of applause thanking the Secretary of State John F. Kerry, Special Envoy Angelina Jolie Pitt, and Assistant Secretary of State Ann Richards, and Special Representative Shadiq Zafar.